Hi, my loves. I'm so excited to be here today. We are doing a deep dive into moon signs. I absolutely love talking about moon signs. And I think today's episode was inspired by my dear friend. We had a conversation last time. She's not an astrologer, but it was so fascinating just watching something switch in her brain as I was explaining to her the moon signs and how important they are. And this is a thing that really gets me so, just lights me up so much when it comes to astrology. It's tangible information that can absolutely change someone's life once they start understanding it and applying it into their lives. So we're not doing this just for just to be intellectual. That is fun too, but it's actually for the sake of practicality and to improve your life. As a result, let's dive in. We want to talk about moon sign. The moon sign, I want you to see the moon sign as your emotional core. So, the sun sign, which is what most people are aware of, let's say when they say, I'm a Gemini, I'm a Scorpio, I'm an Aquarius, I'm a fun loving Sagittarius. This is pretty much the core. I like to think of it as the processing, the software that was installed in you, your basic software, the processing, um, the programming that is running you. So it's pretty much that it's the things that you do the way that you are without even trying thinking about it. You just are like that, and it's just the foundation of you. So this is the core. For example, like, if you are a Virgo, you might find yourself just naturally doing things. You don't think about it. Others ask you, why do you do this? But you just do, you know? And then the emotional, the the moon sign is when things start getting a bit more, we start adding a bit more layers to your chart. It's understanding the specificity and the specialty of the moon sign is pretty much your emotional core. Technically, it is how, to me, I personally love the moon sign, and this is where I believe that it's the unfiltered soul. It's you, who you are when you are by yourself, how you process emotion. It's pretty much, it's based on where the moon was located at your birth, because the birth chart is pretty much a snapshot of the sky. It's as if you are laying in the middle of the circle, the middle of Earth, literally, when you were born. In whichever hospital, whichever house, wherever you were born, the earth is, imagine that huge big circle, that sphere, right? And then you are in the middle, sitting, laying down, looking at the sky, and someone just takes a snapshot, a picture of the cosmos, of the stars, at the exact second that you take your first breath. So this is literally very, very personal, intimate moment. It is your own map, your personal blueprint. And so the moon will represent where, and by the way, this is what I absolutely would not stop talking about, why you need to get a birth chart reading. I think, like, if I was, let's say I was the president of a country. No, I wouldn't be a dictator, but this would be such a requirement to me. In school, it would be a requirement. It's actually crazy how our society was so disconnected from, things that are actually really, really helpful. It's just mind blowing. We study so many things that, of course, I'm not gonna say math. Mathematics are not important. Of course, it is. You need to know how to count. You need to know how to write. But so many things that we study are, I'm gonna say that, absolutely useless, and to the average person. So I believe that. Imagine a world where everyone knows the birth chart. Everyone knows. To me, it would be the most optimized, not optimized as in we are raising an army and like soldiers and robots, but absolutely like living in a world where you understand yourself and you could align yourself, you know, according to your birth chart. And it would be like such a magical world where we wouldn't hear about, like, people talking about how they feel so disconnected and this and that. But oh my God, I digress again. At the same time, I also want to take the opportunity to just really thank you for like tuning into the podcast and just listening to me rant and then listening to me going all over the place. And even if I have an outline, I promise you, I do have an outline that I need to follow. Otherwise, this will get out of hand really quick. Anyways, what we're talking about again? Moon sign. So let's get back to it, shall we? Where were we? We're talking about emotions. The moon represents. I can't believe I just went off like on the tangent here. My goodness, we're not doing politics here. The moon sign here represents your emotions, your instincts, your inner reactions, your inner world. I'm a very curious person and I like to know. I walk around outside and thinking, I wonder what that person's moon sign is. And I try to guess based on like well, it's very hard because it's literally that inner world. It's the inner world of the person. It's one of the most intimate aspect. So once you know someone's moon side, I always feel slightly uncomfortable because I feel like, oh my God, this person just let me into their personal space. And this is how important the moon sign is. And we need to know our moon sign. If everyone could know their moon signs, it's just, my God, because half of the problem we have in the world is because we don't know who we are. We don't know who we are. We don't know what we do, what we like, what we don't like, what we shouldn't even do. Of course, a lot of the fun is exploring and, discovering ourselves through trial and error. But a lot of things that we should have no business doing. But then because we don't know who we are, we're clueless, we end up in a lot of bad situations. That's how you always have like those kids end up doing drugs and this and that, and then falling into the bad groups and bad stuff. Again, all comes down to the core, the self. We don't know who we are, and we're just confused and looking for direction. So this is why it's so important for us to really know our moon and to nail this thing down, because the goal is to know yourself. That way you can pretty much guide yourself through life. And like I said, the moon represent all the inner world. I like to think of the moon as who you are really when no one is watching. When no one is watching and you're not trying to impress anyone, you're not playing a role, you're not putting a filter on. Who are you? Think about like you saying hi to everyone, and the second the elevator doors close and you like, you take a breath and you can breathe because, oh my goodness, you don't have to pretend, be nice, blah, 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 blah. You can just be yourself and act as silly as you want, or don't act silly, in the elevator with the doors closed. Of course, then you look up and you see there's a camera looking at you. This is not personal experience. I'm just saying. Um, so this is how I like to think of the moon sign. It's who are you? You know how some people get in the house. I know a lot of my friends that get in the house from work. The first thing they do is they remove their bra. They throw their shoes. They throw it in the corner of the room. They set the let's set the boobs free. And then some people get naked, and some people just like wear that silly outfit. It's who are you when you are behind closed door when no one is watching. This is technically what the moon sign is gonna tell you. It's gonna reflect that. And again, like you said, the sun sign is the core, the software, the basic software that was installed. The rising sign is the filter that you operate through the world. But I also see the rising sign as a special energy that you can tap into to get things done. And the moon sign, again, it's your secret world. You in your most vulnerable way. It's you, like you, the you that only a few people get to see, but also it still has an impact on your everyday life. Let's dive deeper and talk about why this has an impact in your everyday life. Because even if the moon is your internal world, your emotional system, your reactive system, but it's still going to impact who you are in a day-to-day life. And that's why it's so important, because like I said, the moon sign is your unfiltered self. My mentor liked to say it's the true self, it's the real you. And it's how you react. It's going to have an impact on your day to day life, whether you try to hide it or not, because this is how you react emotionally. That's why I always talk to couple and tell them how it's important for them to know, understand each other's blueprint. Because when you're having a fight, or when you're feeling like happy, or when you're feeling dissatisfied, your moon sign is what is gonna take over, because it's gonna determine how you react emotionally. You're having a fight with your partner and you don't know why they shut down, or you don't know why they lash out, or you don't know why well, the moon sign is literally going to explain all that. It's going to give you an insight on all that. It depends on the moon sign of the person. That's why people could be like, oh my God, but wait a minute. You are a Pisces. You're supposed to be soft and dreamy and nice and fun, blah, blah, blah. How are you so, why are you blowing up when you're mad because that person was like, I don't know, an hour late to the first date? Why are you blowing up? Or you have like someone who is like a Sagittarius, and you expect them to be the stereotypical fun loving Sag, but then you see they're very reserved when it comes to like so it's just like all of these things. That's why I'm saying that astrology is layers. There's many layers to someone's personality. It's not just one sign. All of these things come together. It's like a recipe, and they create like that special recipe that is you, you know? So your moon sign, your unfiltered self, it's gonna show how you react emotionally. It's pretty much what makes you, it's gonna determine what makes you feel safe. For example, if you're a Capricorn moon sign, pretty much would have a tendency to in your private world, you like it reserved, you like very reserved with your emotions, very quiet. You like things to be structured a certain way. You like the emotions to be contained. So someone can't expect you to show up with Leo energy and be very expressive, because that is not how you are wired, right? And it's also going to show, the moon sign is going to show you what triggers you. It's going to determine what triggers you. It's going to also determine how you process feelings emotionally. Some people, when they are, the way they process their emotions is they start being very emotional, very like crying and very emotional. And some other people will be very reserved. Other people will be extremely passionate and they want you to listen to them. Some other people are very, they would verbalize those emotions, whereas others don't verbalize those emotions that easily. So all of these things come into play based on your moon sign. It's also going to show your natural coping mechanism. Now, this is very, very, very important. Remember the example I gave of the Capricorn moon, right? So let's say your partner is a Capricorn moon. Again, by Capricorn moon, by design, they will have a tendency to be very reserved with their emotions. I'm not saying they will never open up to you, but that is the default. Again, the point of all this astrology thing is for us to understand our strength and limitation, and to work to elevate above it, right? But knowing that this is the person's makeup, it's very important to know what you're working with. That way you can just improve it. And at the same time, so you can know for sure what you're working with. For example, you can have if you have a partner that has a Capricorn moon, which tends to be reserved by nature, is it realistic for you to just get mad that they're not the most expressive person? I don't know. I'll leave that to you. But this is where I find that this thing is really beautiful, because it allows us to just be grounded and know what we're working with, and give us some sort of map, and to actually know what we're dealing with. And another thing is, it's gonna show your moon sign is pretty much your emotional wiring. It shows how you operate, right? So it's also another important thing. Yes, it shows how you process emotion, but it also determines how you experience emotion. Not everyone experiences emotion the same way. You know how sometimes you talk to someone and then they hear something totally different, and you're like, "What? Like how did you hear that? I never said that." And then you keep repeating. But then the person, it doesn't matter how you repeat. It's almost like the moon is almost like a filter through which the person operates in this world. So you can say the same thing to five different people, and each of these five different people hear it differently, feel it differently. You know how some people get triggered by something very simple, and you're like, wait a minute, why did you get triggered? I didn't like, that wasn't my intention. Well, okay. Well, to be fair, yes, sometimes I'm not talking about in a case where you come and say something like very rudely and very aggressively. Let's be honest. We're talking about an example where you say something in a very neutral tone, and many people can agree that yes, this is a neutral tone, but then you have someone receive that in an entirely far-fetched way that you never imagined, right? All of this is happening because of that person's moon sign. It's the filter through which they receive, like, they perceive emotions, they perceive, they they translate, you know, emotions and a lot of information that's coming at them. So your moon sign is going to determine how you experience your own emotion. Some people going to experience emotions very intensely, like if you're a fire sign, fire, passion, versus if you are more subtle, like example, a Capricorn sign, a Capricorn moon, a Virgo moon, that is going to be more internal. Some people are going to have a very fast processing. They're very they just, the translation, the everything happens fast. The processing of information and emotions happen really fast. And other people are going to have a slower processing. They need to sit down with it. They need to just like understand, shift, and wade through emotions. So, and also how you express your emotions is going to be determined by your moon sign, right? Are you open? Again, you tend to go outward. Again, I'm thinking fire sign. Or are you more guarded? Open and outward would be fire sign as a great example. That's the best example I can think about that. And then like guarded, if you like an earth sign, a bit more grounded, a bit more internal, processing things really internal, and not tend to like, you know, just it stays contained. And also please pay very, 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 very special attention to that. Your moon sign is gonna determine what you need emotionally from others. This is very, very, very important. If I have someone coming up and booking a session with me, like and a birth chart reading session, and or also doing like a couple session, where because that's something that you can also do in astrology, right? Where you are determining compatibility by analyzing two persons like birth chart. So like the husband, the wife, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the boyfriend, girlfriend, you get it. And this is going to be something that I'm going to be very, 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 this is a question. This is something that we are trying to answer. What you need emotionally from the other person, because depending on your moon, in order to be satisfied, when couples are fighting and saying, oh, my needs are not being met, well, the needs of that person is going to be totally different based on the moon sign. Like, I don't understand. I mean, I wish people understood how important that was. The moon sign is literally the gem. It's so important, because when we think about it, we are emotional beings. Even the ones of us that tend to pretend like they're cold and they're too cool for school. Listen, we are all emotional beings. That's just the wiring of the human nature of humanity. And this is why we are doing all this, this is why we're doing all this work and all of this self-assessment. It's to understand how we work. That way we can show up for ourselves better, and that way we can have better relationship. That way we can thrive in our relationship. That way we can also reduce the divorce rate, because although if we can see that we're not compatible or we're already married, we're trying to understand how to make things work by leaning into our strengths and just reducing our friction areas, and by better understanding the other person. You get my drift, right? I get so carried away when I'm talking about this thing. And also your moon sign. So now, yeah, moon sign by elements, right? Now, I'm not going to get into this today because I think this episode is getting a little bit way too long. But fire signs, just to give you, like, I will do another episode where we're gonna do more like how can you heal depending on where your moon sign is, what type of moon sign do you have. I think this would be really fun, and I'm gonna talk about moon signs more because I'm so obsessed with the moon sign. You're definitely gonna see like more episodes on that, to keep a close eye for that. But for now, to keep it digestible, generally speaking, right, there are four elements, there are four groups, four families. We do have fire, earth, water, and air. And fire, we do have, what do we have for fire sign? We do have my beloved Aries. I'm thinking about so many Aries friends. Super spicy and fiery. Aries. And again, there is no perfect sign. There is no sign that's better than the other. We are perfect when we get together. That's the idea. The idea is that we're created in perfection, all of us together, right? And it's just a perfect pie, perfect pizza that comes together, all 12 signs. And each of us, we do have a role in society, but then we are a piece of the puzzle, and together the puzzle is perfect. Now, fire sign, we said Aries, my Leos, and my Sagittarius. And then we do have water signs as Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer. We do have air signs. What's my beloved air signs again? We do have Gemini, Aquarius. What am I missing? Libra. And then we do have earth signs, which is my Taurus. I'm trying to do it in order, but I know I'm all over the place. My earth sign, we do have the bulls, the Taurus. We do have what else is Virgo? No, I'm not forgetting you, Virgo, and the Capricorns. So this is pretty much the four family: earth, water, air, and fire. And generally speaking, if you have a fire moon, you can expect very emotionally driven, passion driven, because it's the fire sign. It's get things started. It's the heat, and then you do have the earth sign, which is stabilizing. That is their job, right? It's lots of grounded emotions. That's why it shows like that, because the earth is stable. It's grounding. It's not there to get things started. And we need everything. Like I said, there's nothing perfect. It all works together. It all comes together and work perfectly together in unison, but it's each one of them has a different assignment, right? The earth is here to stabilize thing, right? And then we do have, that's why in the moon sign, the earth sign will show up through groundedness. Remember that Capricorn energy I showed you before? Don't take a Capricorn. I'm not saying we can improve. Of course, there's always room for improvement in a relationship, but don't take a Capricorn moon and just be mad because there's no fire. I mean, hello, we're talking about Capricorn moon. You got to understand what it is and respect it, and appreciate it for what it is. Now we can take other elements in the chart, to help play with that and help bring it out again, like I said, in the scope of a relationship, if that is something that the person wants to work with, and then you think as a couple it would improve your relationship. But generally speaking, we need to understand and respect the beast. Anyhow, and then we do have the other family of air, the air moons, right? This is where you're going to expect they're going to need a lot of emotional, what's what I'm looking for? Emotionally intellectual. So these people would tend to process their emotions through a lot of talking, a lot of intellectualizing, a lot of mind activity. It's air, right? And they're going to tend to need that in a relationship. They would need someone to reflect that back to them. They would need someone I can have deep conversations with, again, this is where things start being beautiful. If you have someone with an air moon, let's say someone that has a Gemini moon, that needs intellectual stimulation, that processes their emotion through a lot of intellectual, activities. Now, if you put that person with I don't know why I keep going to Capricorn moon. I'm sorry, I'm not picking on Capricorn moon, but it's just because I had like a chart about that recently, so that's why it stays in my head. Now, if you put that person with a Capricorn moon, again, we can always play with other elements in the chart. It's a beautiful dance, I'm telling you. But you need to understand that there might be some friction there, because the Capricorn moon tends to be a bit more quiet, a bit more reserved. They process their emotion personally, privately, quietly, calmly. They like things contained. Now, when you put in the Gemini moon, who needs intellectual stimulation and exchange, there might be a little bit of a clash. So this is why it's beautiful when it's beautiful, and that's exactly what we do when that's what I can do with you when we're having a couple readings and compatibility readings, or just having a solo birth chart reading, so you can understand all these things. Trust me, you don't move in life the same once you understand your makeup and you understand things around. It's just like a whole veil gets lifted. And lastly but not least, last but not least, water moons. The water moons, like I said, our Pisces, our Scorpios, and our Cancers. They are there for depth. They're there for a lot of things. I really think water signs are so misunderstood. I actually think all the signs are misunderstood. But anyways, the water moon, my water moon people, that's where you expect a deep emotional sensitivity And yeah, that's pretty much highly intuitive people, right? The energy folks, the mysticals, the woos people. So that was pretty much an overall of the different moon families, and I think we'll be diving deeper into that a little bit later. But know that there is no running away from the moon sign, because the moon sign, this is why you need to be aware. I think you should be aware of yours, because otherwise it's just running your life, you know, but you don't know. You blind. And here we want to know because this is where you start being in control, not control as in control freak, but you start being in control as in accountability. And you're not that. This is when you start being that poor leaf that is just being taken by the wind and then helpless. This is when you start being helpless. This is when we start being accountable, and we have all the tools to master our life. You know what I mean? So your moon sign shows up in real life. Believe it or not, it does show up in your real life. It's not just, although it is, I do see the moon sign as the true you, because that's literally who you are when no one's watching, when you don't have to put up a face or a filter. However, it will spill into other areas of life. It's not just that thing. Don't think you can just hide it and just go on in life, your entire life, just, pretending to be someone else. It is gonna come out. It comes out in relationship. Definitely 1000% comes out in relationship. It will come out in during conflicts, whether it is family conflicts, relationship conflicts, work conflicts. This is why, again, I think, imagine a world where everyone knows their birth chart. Everything operates. We do birth chart left and right. We know birth chart. We do the birth chart for, at work, so we can know, like, which team would work, which person would work better under which team, under which, you know manager. And then we can, like, know, like, can you imagine a world like that, where you place all, like, the earth sign, I mean, all the earth sign people, in I don't know, in a certain area of work, and then you place the I don't know, really, really exciting. Or even if you mix them up, but you are aware of every person's strength in the relationship, and then you throw all the fire sign people in, like, I don't know, in cells, because, like, they're just, also not just fire sign, but also, like, the also the air signs. But again, the goal is, but the beauty of thing is that because we're such a mixed bags, right? There are different, we all have a part, most of us tend to have, like, a part of many of these elements within us, but we're always going to have some elements that are going to be a bit more, a bit more, that are running the show a bit more. So again, the moon sign is going to show up when you stress. It's going to show up when you're overwhelmed. It's going to show up when you feel emotionally safe. It's going to show up in childhood patterns. Again, it's going to show up everywhere. Another area, I think, that parents should always get a birth chart for their kids. They know how to operate this new human being that just dropped from the sky. You know what I mean? It's actually funny, as an astrologer, when I went back home, I started pulling out the charts for all of the little kids in my family, and I'm like, huh, interesting, but it's fun. It's actually really, really fun. And lastly, we want to talk about, like, healing and self-awareness through your moon sign. Now, once you understand your moon sign, because, like, step, why we're doing all this, once you understand your moon sign, guess what? You can better regulate yourself. It offers better emotional regulation. It offers self-compassion. Again, I don't want anyone to come to me and just expecting some, like, we're throwing a pity party for your sign and poor you. This is not the point. I'm all about what? I'm all about compassion, and I'm all about, what's the word I'm looking for? I swear the word is just going away the second I need to use them. I'm all about compassion. I'm all about us taking responsibility. And I'm all about, the reason why we're doing that is so we can understand ourselves better. That way we can have control and elevate on top of all of the stuff, right? And be our best selves. This is how we're our best selves. Like, if I don't know if this trend is still going on, but, if you, like, last year or 2 years ago, a few years ago, there was, like, this crazy trend on Instagram about, like, you know, best self, me becoming my best self. Everyone was obsessed with the best. Well, this is how we actually do the work. You understand what you're working with, and then that way it's easy for you to understand the patterns that you need to take, the actions that you need to take in order to become that best self. That's what we're doing here. We're not just daydreaming. We are in action land. And healing and self awareness through your moon sign. And lastly, we want to know how and where we can implement. Blah, 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 blah. This is where my French starts fighting with my English in my brain. We can implement. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to edit out that part. We can implement, right? That's how you pronounce this. We can implement better boundaries. We're gonna win this. Okay, boundaries, right? And lastly, learning to honor your own emotional needs yourself. Because how can you expect someone else to honor, to show up for your own needs when you don't even know what your own needs are, when you don't even understand how to honor your own needs yourself? You know what I mean? So it almost becomes an impossible task at that time. And working with your wiring instead of working against it. So, like I said, I'm gonna do another episode on healing, how you can heal, how we can all heal based on each of the moon signs. But I think that's enough for today. I talked enough today. So, to summarize, your moon sign is everything. I don't think any of us can have the luxury of going through life without like, it's just like it's there for you. Take advantage of that. Please, I urge you. On that note, you can take a reading with me. We can dive into your moon sign. And also, I absolutely love doing couple readings because it's like, hello. This is how you save yourself from potential divorce, potential separation later on. You want to bring all the awareness, all the consciousness, and this is how you make sure you show up for your partner as much as you can, and they can show up for you as much as they can, right? So why wouldn't you want to use that? It's pretty much the best investment that you can do, right? And so again, your moon sign explains why you feel the way you do, how you operate with the feelings, how you go through life, and everything pretty much. So on that note, my loves, I will see you in the next one. Keep shining bright like a diamond. I was gonna say keep shining bright like a moon, but like I like my diamond better. Keep shining bright like a diamond. I will see you in the next one. Bye.